Believe it or not, there was a time when the Bucs weren't the best team in the NFL. There was actually a time when we were not the best team in the NFL. That couldn't be me. That could not be me. I don't remember those times. I mean, what are you talking about? The Bucs weren't one of the best teams in the NFL at one point. We weren't the best team in the NFL. It's kind of weird. There was actually a time when we were not just the greatest football team on planet Earth. Weird, huh? Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucs Planet podcast. And that intro is just a reflection of how happy I am, how good it is to be a Bucs fan right now. I've got all the apparel, I've got pretty much everything. And, I just love it. NFL, love it. I love it. And this is not going to last for forever, so I might as well enjoy it. And they're still looking good for the Bucs. I mean, we re-signed everybody. The band is back together. And we blew the Chiefs out with that band. That band that blew the Chiefs out is now back together. And the Chiefs were supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we just ran through them. We steamrolled them. We could go back. The Bucs actually could go back, and we could win. We have a decent shot at going back and winning. So let's get into it. Let's talk about free agency so far, and this will be the first video. It's not going to be super long, but I will make one next week, and I'm going to go super in depth into pretty much everything that's happened so far, some draft goals maybe, free agency signings. So let's look at what we've done so far. So first of all, this is what they said. This is what those Chiefs fans and the Saints fans, I don't know what they're doing. They'll say, "Oh, the Bucs, they can't keep everyone. They don't have enough money." Okay, well, let me just explain to you this. Chris Godwin, franchise tagged for $15.9 million. I think this is a really good deal. A lot of people, there was kind of speculation about Odell coming here, Odell Beckham Jr., star receiver for the Browns, used to be on the Giants. And just because he worked out with Tom Brady and Tom Brady likes him, I don't think this would be a good idea personally. I think Chris Godwin, and this, if you actually watch the film and watch everything, Chris Godwin is a better football player. He's a better wide receiver than Odell, especially in this offense. Odell might have the higher ceiling, but Chris Godwin's the better receiver. He blocks tremendously, and a lot of people don't realize how much Chris Godwin's blocking actually impacts the run game and allowing Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette to actually have wide running lanes. It's actually a huge part of our offense, and Odell can't block for his life. Good receiver, can't block. Would not work here, especially as our number two. Chris Godwin is just an excellent human being on top of that. He has no antics, unlike Odell, who would bring a ton of antics in. And I know we did the same thing with Antonio Brown, but, I mean, why would you want to replace someone who's better? Here's what I'm trying to say. Why would you want to take that risk when we have a receiver already on the team who's better and would probably make less? Odell would be making more than Chris Godwin, so it doesn't make sense. Keeping Chris Godwin, I think, was the biggest move actually that we've made so far. I do think we'll get Chris Godwin on a long-term deal next year. I think that's going to be a thing. There'll probably be a lot of moves next year, but that's, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So I think this is the biggest move for the Bucs was Chris Godwin. I mean, they called it the big three that needed a return. It was Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, and Levante David. All of them are very important. That's why they're called the big three. But I thought Chris Godwin should have been given the number one priority of that big three. It kind of went up in the air. Some people thought Shaq Barrett was. Some people thought Levante David was. I thought it was Chris Godwin. A lot of people did too, because of the way he just fits the offense so well. He runs great routes, has good hands. I know he dropped a couple in the playoffs, but, whatever. And he blocks great, and he's so selfless. And without him, the offense doesn't function as well. And I know that if we bring Antonio Brown back or someone like that, he could potentially replace Chris Godwin. But again, Antonio Brown doesn't block as well. The offense is really held together in Bruce Arians' system around the wide receiver too. It's kind of weird, actually. If you go back to the Cardinals offense and you look at their film, his entire offense, I don't know why, it just kind of is. It's really built around how good the wide receiver 2 is. And although Mike Evans will still be getting most of the targets and receiving yards and such, if you look at last year, Chris Godwin before last year didn't really, hasn't done much. He was just kind of an unproven. Everyone knew he was good. We all knew he was good, but still hasn't really proven it on the field yet. And then all of a sudden, when Bruce Arians comes here, the first year he's here, and with Jameis Winston at quarterback still, Chris Godwin breaks out as 1,200 yards, a bunch of touchdowns, and it showed that Bruce Arians' system around the wide receiver 2 really is flourishing, and that's why Chris Godwin is important to stay here. The offense is tied around him. I think it would have been. I don't think we would have been necessarily completely screwed if he left, but it's definitely better to have him. And I think it just really keeps the core of the offense together, which is a really big deal. And then next we have Shaq Barrett signing a 4-year, $72 million contract. He'll be making $18 million per year. $36 million is guaranteed, so that's about half the contract. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. The Bucs haven't signed a defensive end like that to that big of money in a long time. Not even since I can really remember, and he deserves it. He's been underpaid his whole career. Obviously, he was a backup in Denver, comes here, leads the league in sacks. We franchise tag him. Shaq Barrett is now set for life. I'm glad he made that money, but now he's got to prove it. He's here now for 4 years, barring something crazy, and he's gonna have to earn it. I hope he just doesn't sign this and then does nothing the rest of his career. I really hope he goes out and earns it. Because, again, in the regular season, he only had 8 sacks, but then the playoffs, he popped off. We need that Shaq Barrett again. A lot of it's because Vita Vea helped, so we're going to need that too. We're going to need Vita Vea to help out too. So I'm very, very happy about the Shaq Barrett deal. That just came out on Sunday. I'm recording this on Saturday, so pretty much a week ago. And then we got Levante David back on a 2-year, $25 million deal. This was another big one because Levante David, although he's aging, his leadership skills and his role on the defense is so integral, especially in the run game. Levante David and Devin White are the best linebacker duo in the NFL. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. They're the fastest and they're the best linebacker duo in the NFL. And retaining Levante David means that our run defense will still be good. Because with Devin White's speed, Levante David's speed, you just can't outrun them really. Now, their pass coverage might be shaky sometimes, but you can't outrun them. That's why our run defense was so good. It was the combination of Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh in the trenches, not opening up run lanes, forcing the backs to bounce outside. And then they can't bounce outside because we have the 2 fastest linebackers in the NFL. That's why our run defense was so good. So that was huge. That was a huge signing especially to get all 3 of them. And how was this possible? Because Tom the GOAT Brady, Tom Brady, took a pay cut he took a pay cut, but what we did was we extended him for 4 years. We extended Tom Brady for 4 years, but it's really only 1 year. But it has 3 voidable years, meaning if he decides to retire after his 3rd year in Tampa, because we originally signed him to a 2-year contract, we extended him 1 year, but has 3 voidable years, then we can pay him the money over the course of those 3 years instead of taking a huge cap hit the first year. I don't know if that made sense, but essentially he was due $25 million this year. And instead, we signed him to a 4-year extension to where we said, hey, you can pay off that $25 million not this year, but over the course of the next 4, even if he's not playing. So his cap hit this year was something super small, $4.5 million or something crazy like that. And I think that's how it worked. It might have worked the other way where they paid it all up front and now it's less. It was something like that happened. But anyways, Tom Brady's cap hit because of the restructured contract is very low, allowing for us to bring back the big 3. And we did. And it's great. So if I'm Shaq Barrett, Shaq Barrett was the 3rd to be re-signed out of the 3 because of his contract is very long. Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. He's a very tough negotiator. Shaq Barrett should be thanking Tom Brady for his contract, honestly, because he would not be here. Now, I heard he could get more if he played elsewhere, but why would you do that? You're going to get paid. He's getting paid a ton of money with us. A ton of money. And he's actually going to have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl because we already did it. We already did it. I should love it. I should love it. Okay. Now next, we re-signed a couple of slapdicks, as I like to call them. They're just kind of rotational guys, not super important, but for special teams and rotational guys, we got a couple of them back. We re-signed Akeem Nunez Roches and backup linebacker Kevin Minter, who got absolutely roasted by Taylor Heineke in the playoff game. If we had Devin White in that game, he would have been a lot more effective, I think, at covering up Heineke's runs, but it's neither here nor there. We still ended up winning the game, I'm just saying. And he's a good backup special teams guy, I guess. So Kevin Minter, Akeem Nunez Roches is back. And the biggest signing, actually, of them all is we re-signed the kicker, Ryan Suckup, who, knock on this wood right here, broke the kicking curse in Tampa Bay for at least one season. He broke it. I don't know if it's going to be permanently broken. Time will tell. But he broke it for one season. And I could have not been happier with him. I mean, he had a meltdown in the Lions game. I mean, let's just be honest. But if you exclude the Lions game, he only missed one field goal. And that one field goal was the first kick of the season. It got blocked. So, again, if you exclude the Lions meltdown where he missed like 2 extra points and 2 field goals and he missed a bunch of kicks, I'm not sure the exact amount he missed, but he missed a bunch. He had a great season. And I mean, I just remember in the Packers NFC Championship game, we're in Lambeau. It's like 20 degrees, if that. It might be less than that. And it was a 47-yard field goal. And that stadium was loud. It was a loud stadium despite the fact that they had limited capacity. That looked almost sold out to me and pretty much everyone else I talked to, but whatever. And he just hit the 47-yard field goal right down the middle. And I was just like, this is what we need right here. This is what we need. And it was impressive. I was impressed with Suckup. He deserved it. He signed a 3-year, $12 million contract, so he'll be making $4 million a year. That's really good money for a kicker. He deserves it if he can keep kicking this good. If he can keep kicking this good, he deserves it. That's a big if, though. Now, we have 2 players that I think are very interesting who have not signed back yet as of the time I'm making this video. And it's Ndamukong Suh. It's actually 3 players. Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette, and Antonio Brown. So let's talk about Ndamukong Suh first. Ndamukong Suh is a must signing. Ndamukong Suh, arguably, in my opinion, can be considered in the top 4. Ndamukong Suh's presence of shutting down run lanes and being just a big monster in the trenches is key to our run defense. And I said that earlier. It's Vita Vea, Ndamukong Suh, Devin White, Levante David. That's the key to the run defense. And so Suh's a big part of that. He's a big guy. He's very good at the run. He needs to be brought back. I don't think he's going to ask for a ton of money, but he might. Just do a 1-year deal. This might be his last year in Tampa if he does resign. Last year in the NFL, maybe. I know Gerald McCoy's now wanting to get signed. I would not sign Gerald McCoy personally, but we'll get into that at a later date. Hopefully we don't sign him. So much rather have Ndamukong Suh. So Suh needs to sign back. This is the only thing when you look at players that have signed and not signed, you say, oh, we need Suh. We need Suh back. Now, the other player I named was Leonard Fournette. And this is interesting because him and Shaq Barrett were kind of mediocre to be. I mean, Shaq Barrett was decent in the regular season and then just was a monster in the playoffs. Leonard Fournette was outright horrible at some points in the regular season. So bad that he was a healthy scratch, which for you people that don't know what that means, it means that you have nothing wrong with you, but you're just inactive for the game because you suck that bad. And that was Leonard Fournette for a game. That's how bad he was at one point. And he got a lot better. He trusted the process. He understood the system more. He got better. But that does slightly alarm me that he was that bad at one point. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, first of all, the only issue with Leonard Fournette, in my opinion, and the whole Ronald Jones thing is Ronald Jones' strength is running. And his weakness, as I've said so many times on the show, is pass blocking and catching, which are really important for a running back. But that's fine if you have another running back that is good at those other 2 things. But the issue is Leonard Fournette's good at running, and he's bad at pass blocking, and he's bad at... Sorry about that. Leonard Fournette's bad at pass blocking, and he's bad at catching. Now, his catching got better in the playoffs, and so did his pass blocking, right? He just became better. Playoff Lenny. But I would not break the bank to re-sign Leonard Fournette. I don't know. I don't know about that. If we could get him back for cheap, bring him back. I think that's a great idea. But if he's like, yeah, pay me more, and then we're like having to choose between Sue and Leonard Fournette, I would easily choose Sue. I don't know. I mean, I would be happy if he came back, but if he's asked for too much, I would let Leonard Fournette walk. I would. And I love him, but I'd let him walk. And then here's the other interesting one is Antonio Brown, who pretty much every analyst, every film analysis guy that I listened to penciled Antonio Brown leaving for more money. And I was like, okay, because if we're being honest, Antonio Brown is a luxury signing at this point. He's not going to be the reason we win the Super Bowl or lose, if we're being completely honest. It's just a luxury signing. I know a lot of fans would like, Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson to take that wide receiver 3 role because they were both limited with Antonio Brown on the team. But if we're being honest, Antonio Brown would be the best third receiver out of all of them, for sure. But again, it would be a luxury signing. So I would say he would have the lowest priority of coming back. But we're now a week into free agency, and there hasn't been a single peep about Antonio Brown. And from what I've read, teams aren't interested. They're not interested in Antonio Brown, which plays into our cards. This is what we want. Teams aren't interested in Antonio Brown because he only played half a season, and teams think that he hasn't proven enough to where, is he actually not a basket case still, if I'm being honest here? Because he might still be a basket case. But people think that because of Tom Brady, he was under control. So, theoretically, if you were to sign to a different team without Tom Brady, he might still have those antics again. So, because teams think that plays right into our cards, meaning that Antonio Brown has no choice but to come back and play for us on a cheap deal, which is exactly what I want to happen. But then again, if a team offers him a decent amount of money, we're not going to match it. He can leave, for sure. I think that would be a great idea for us to let AB walk if he gets a better deal. But I honestly think at this point, we're a week into this, I think, Antonio Brown's going to come crawling back and saying, hey, no one's interested in me. I'll take your 1 year, $1 million deal. And we're going to be like, thank you. Welcome back. That's what I hope is going to happen, but you never know. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the Bucs free agency so far. I want to make another video talking about, Leonard Fournette's potential replacement. Actually, I'm going to talk about that now. So James White, I forgot to mention this. So James White's the old running back for the Patriots, who's very good. What's the two things that James White's good at? He's not great at running, but he's great at catching the ball, and he's great at pass blocking. I couldn't think of a better fit for our team. I almost would rather have James White than Leonard Fournette, to be honest. I hate to say that. It would be the perfect complement to Ronald Jones. But if James White wants too much, then we could potentially go to the draft and get Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, who's both of them are very good at catching, especially Najee Harris. I mean, arguably has better hands than some of the receivers going in the first round. He's that good. He is that good at catching the ball. I think that would be insane if we drafted him. I think we would be almost unstoppable if he ends up living up to the hype and the play style he played to in college. But, whatever happens, I mean, it kind of just depends on what Leonard Fournette does and then if James White wants money. So there's a lot of kind of ifs about that. So that's why I'm not going to get super into it right now. I'm just going to kind of, wait until things kind of play themselves out. And then let's say we don't re-sign Fournette, we don't get James White. Then we'll make a video about Najee Harris or Travis Etienne in the draft potentially. And then, if we do, then we don't have to talk about it. So that's just what the overview of the running back scenario is for this offseason. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. And remember, guys, we're Super Bowl champions. Keep enjoying it. It won't last forever. Go Bucs.